Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, Conversations Live. Is this Richard?
Yes, it is. This is Cyrus.
It is. How you doing, Richard?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Hey, doing really good. Doing really good. I appreciate the time today.
Oh, I do too. Believe me.
Well, look, of course we're going to talk about the year that's been 2020 for you, Richard, but also what it's been like for you to work in front of and behind the camera. We'll get into that a bit, talking about your creative.
Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Now celebrating 17 years of broadcasting success, here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again, both for our radio audience here in the South and an online audience joining us, thanks to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could join us as well. We're excited to welcome a very special guest who's been able to work not only in front of the camera, but also behind the camera as well. Richard Kenyon is making his first appearance on our program to talk to us not only about his life in the entertainment industry, but also what it's been like for him to do work that he loves, and then, of course, we share that experience with all of us. If you guys are not staying connected with Richard, of course, we'll let you know where to find him. But, Richard, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, the pleasure's definitely all mine. So I want to begin with, I guess, a question that I'm sure everyone around you is talking about now, Richard, and that is the year that's been 2020. What has it been like for you to kind of reflect on this year for yourself and how you've been able to navigate through it?
Wow, it's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. I think what had happened in January is that we had a great momentum of projects that we wanted to do. And I run a company called Soul and Bliss Theater based in LA, and we primarily do works of Shakespeare, but we also do any of the classic plays. So we had a full slate sort of ready for us, and we started well in February, and then March hit. And I think, we came to a point where we thought we can go one of two ways here. We can just shut down and see what happens, or we can kind of create a Shakespeare gym, as it were, so that actors that we knew and friends that we had could come and meet us on Zoom, and we could sort of do these intellectual workouts as we worked through the plays and started to keep the work as best alive as we possibly could. So that was the game plan initially. So we made that choice to keep moving, to keep our legs going, for sure.
Right. I'm so glad you said that because, as you know, unfortunately, Richard, this has not been a year where a lot of people have been able to do that. They have not been able to keep moving forward. Or even have, honestly, I've been surprised, quite frankly, at how many have not even had the desire, just because I think being emotionally exhausted by everything that's happening and trying to figure out, do you think it's just part of your DNA to say, okay, we're faced with this situation, what can we do instead of what we can't do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was. And I think early on there were other artists and friends of ours that were started to do these wonderful things that really helped inspire. So collectively, yes, I think as artists, it's built in. It's that DNA that we have to keep it going. And also for me, there's a fear that I don't know what happens when it stops. When I stop, what happens? And I don't want to lose that momentum, right? One example, I think for your listeners that they'll really appreciate was the Broadway performer Laura Benanti. She had done some incredible stuff with high schools that weren't able to do their musicals, and she was, among others, a real source of inspiration for us that we could keep moving forward and keeping positive. And I think that at the nucleus, it was to keep positive and to stay healthy of mind as much as we could.
Right. And I think that in itself, I think just the idea of mindset as well, Richard, is such a big thing. So take us back a little bit, because it is your first time on our program this year. When did you first realize that being a part of the creative community was something that you wanted to do or had a passion for?
Well, it's an interesting sort of story. Going way back to the very first production that I was in, I was in 6th grade, and I had a teacher that was very, very ambitious, and she thought, you know what, let's do a production of HMS Pinafore. So these, 6th graders doing a production of HMS Pinafore, that kind of inspiration and kind of passion for the work hit me at a very early age. And so I've had it throughout my life, wherever I could create or perform or to direct or whatever medium. It really felt that as an individual I had a lot of stories to tell, and I wanted that part of my voice, to be heard, to be clear.
Right.
So yeah, in the early days, that was the inspiration. Got to thank Gilbert and Sullivan for that.
Do you find, I know when I talk to actors, especially who've had the privilege of being able to do stage and then have gone on to do television or film, that there's something about that instant gratification as well as response that is almost like a high for them? Was that something that you also found for yourself? Yeah, absolutely. I did. I really felt that there was, it's a wonderful feeling when you tell a joke or you tell a story or you share a story in front of an audience, and there, as you said, there's an immediate response back. You don't have to think, I wonder what people thought of that, or am I connecting, or does this work, or does it not work? And that's the thing that throughout the pandemic we've missed. Zoom and all of the platforms can do only so much. It's you miss the smell of an audience, the breath of an audience. They're so important to the creative process that we do that that's hard, and that's the thing that feels we're so close but not quite, Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I think that is such a good point. There's something you mentioned, and just as you were talking, I thought about it, so I want to ask you about it. You mentioned the readings that you're able to do now, and I can imagine what that does for those who are involved. What does that do for you, Richard, to be able to know that you're able to provide that outlet for others who might be missing that connection and creativity? Well, it's huge. It's the best part of the job in a lot of ways, and to offer our group these plays to read and to explore and to see the results that we're getting, not just by the analytics of it, or how many people you're reaching, all of that stuff, but just simply on an actor level, that you're seeing the growth that people go through, and you can see that they're that it is that gym. It is that Shakespeare gym. They're getting their brain healthy and fit, and we're able to really sort of be very creative. And they're playing parts that perhaps they typically wouldn't ever get a chance to play, and that's wonderful. That to me is everything. So it's lovely to see that. It's like watching, if I may, a little garden, and you can see all of the different plants and vegetables. My actors wouldn't appreciate that I just called them all plants and vegetables, but they understand what I mean. Right. Well, look, I think it's so encouraging. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think our radio audience here in the South will definitely be able to relate to that, because we're so used to plants to us as well. So I guess the elephant in the room to ask you about is Shakespeare. What was it about Shakespeare that made you so engrossed in his work that you wanted to be able to help bring it and share it with others? Well, I was 16 years old, and I was into sports and not really into school so much. And I heard that, our class that we were in English, we were going to be studying Shakespeare, and everyone let out a collective dread. And I didn't really know what to expect.
I walked into the room, and our English teacher had turned off all the lights, moved all the chairs into a circle, had a candelabra of sorts, and she acted out the first scene of this extraordinary play that quite literally on the spot changed my life. I understood it. I felt something of a play that was 400 years old, and that ignited something in me that I had no idea that I was ever going to be interested in Shakespeare. My path was to be a professional athlete. That's what I was going to do, and that day just changed everything for me. And that was a long time ago. That was 36 years ago, and in those 36 years, my passion has become the works of Shakespeare and the plays and these wonderful predicaments that these Shakespearean characters get into. And I've been talking to Shakespeare to whoever would listen to me for 36 years, and I absolutely love it. But again, I had no idea, Cyrus, no clue that this was something that was ever coming to me. And I was open, and it just struck me in such a wonderful, life-changing way.
Well, you know what? I think that's the great thing when you feel a connection with something and to be able to stick with it. That's how you know you're truly passionate about it. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Richard Kenyon to our program today. Richard, someone who's been able to make a name for himself as an actor, producer, and director. I want to go back 3 years ago when I was prepping for this segment. Richard, there's an article that caught my attention, and I'm curious as to your thoughts about this. The article is from the International Film Review, and this is what it said about you. Some creatives seem to have their hands in so many different projects that we can't help but wonder if they've been blessed with a superhuman gift or discovered a mysterious way to create more hours in the day. The collective work of director, producer Richard Kenyon, which spans the gamut and includes award-winning films, PSAs, and high-profile theater productions, is one that begs the question, how does one man accomplish so much? So I guess my question to you is, do you find yourself surprised at what you've been able to do at this point in your life?
I have, yeah. That was a wonderful thing. I really have. I don't know if there was a secret to this. It has literally been, for me, being in situations where I was able to really follow my passion, to work on different projects that seemed to matter. I had some really good mentors early on in my life, I must say, and they gave me advice that even to this day I still incorporate and listen to and think about. And that was to stay positive. It's about a positive attitude. It really is. I've seen too many friends, and even in pandemic nowadays, that suffer from staying positive. It's too easy to become negative, and to me, I felt that was the greatest enemy that I had to really take care of, and to be really aware that if I wanted to stay positive, that was the way to do it. And with that comes a bolt of energy that's unlike anything you can ever imagine. So my attitude first, for sure, and then through that was the wonder of being able to meet so many people that had such an effect on my career. Because of that, I think, maybe in spite of that fact that it's too easy to be negative, I think, in this business.
Yeah.
But those that are positive, you can really find it, and I took that into my life for sure.
I'm always curious, Richard, when I talk to individuals in the creative community about the idea of being a example or role model. Is that something that you have eagerly embraced, or have you just come to the grips with the fact, because of the amount of time you've been able to do this successfully, that's just who you are? Yeah,
I think it's the latter for sure. I've been so inspired by the group of actors that I work with, and I communicate them on a daily basis. And I do the work that we do for them and they do the work, we do it for each other. It feels very communicative that way, even though we're not able to be in person with everybody. It's a great question. No, I don't. I'm not. I would never consider myself to be a role model, and the only part of my life that I would want people to emulate would be to be positive and to follow that passion that drives you. Literally, that's the key. Find that belief in yourself, and others will follow suit.
Well, let me ask you this question then as a follow-up to that. Do you see as part of your job or even your mission to help people do just that, like what you're doing in a year like this, to help them to follow, or at least to keep them from going off the road even when they're faced with a challenging year or situation like this?
Yeah, for sure. I do feel that. I do feel that responsibility. I think that with the projects that we've done and that we're continue to do, it's a different way of working than we had worked for in the past. So there's an excitement about that. There's an excitement about, are you reading this Shakespeare script, or have you learned part of it, or how is that being transferred over this medium? So I like to keep actors busy and our team busy with those kind of problems, and I think that then really sort of garners a lot of excitement, and so much so that we had a Zoom Christmas party the other night, and we had a little Shakespeare trivia quiz that I'd created, and they love that, just for fun, and yes, to your listeners, I am that Shakespeare nerd, and I'm okay with that. But it's keeping it all active, isn't it? It's keeping all of that stuff positive that bleeds into to every other aspect of it, so that when you wake up each morning, there's not that breath of, whew. There's that breath of, oh, right, we're working on Coriolanus, or we're going to do a reading of Hamlet, or what have you. That to me is everything. It's that moment of that little glimmer of hope,
Well, I'll tell you, I think this year shows us that hope is definitely something all of us need, and we will take it where we can get it. Again, everyone, Richard Kenyon has been our guest. He's an actor, producer, director, and individual who's been able to stay passionate about what he loves, but also to share that passion with others and to encourage that passion with others as well. As you mentioned, you're working on some things as well. Richard, so how can our audience stay connected with you?
So social media for me, that's the hardest part of the job, okay?
I get it. Really I get it.
On Twitter, I am at Director Rich. Instagram, Soul and Bliss. I don't do Facebook, but with a lot of the social media stuff, those two sort of areas, I like to kind of reach out when I can, and I always get in trouble for not doing more. So, but yeah, that's kind of how you could reach me on what I'm doing these days.
All right. Well, we will take it, Twitter and Instagram, and we'll make sure that we link that up for our online audience. Richard, this was great chatting with you. I really appreciate the time. Congratulations on all the great things you've done and continue to do, and looking forward to having you back on the program again.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. I look forward to it.
Hey, definitely. And we definitely want to thank our mutual friend, Zach Tepperman, for setting up this chat with us for today, and thank all of you for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's make today amazing. Take care.